All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Lanta Mentorship here with another video. And in this channel, we make debt payoff look really, 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 really easy. In fact, it's so shocking when people watch these videos, they're like blown away because it's just really easy. And for me, it was Tuesday. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Street Fighter the movie. And there was actually a video game called Street Fighter the movie the game, but we're not talking about that. Street Fighter the movie with Raul Julia from 19, I believe 94 or 95. And let me just play the clip for you. Yeah, it's this clip.
I'm sorry. I don't remember any of it.
You don't remember?
For you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, so, if this is the first time or probably second time watching these types of videos of paying how showing how easy it is to pay off debt, it was probably the most important day of your life, but for me, it was Tuesday. Actually, today's Wednesday, I think, but let's go ahead and get started, pay off debt. So what's the first thing we're going to do when we pay off debt is create a budget, because our budget is our debt attack plan. And there's really two steps to this debt attack plan, right? Number one is we don't save money, so I'm kind of spoiling for you. And number two, we use a line of credit to help us not save money. That's really what it is. So first step is we have our income, and then we have our expenses, and then we have our leftover checking and savings right here. And we can see as a person who makes incredibly good money, right? I think the average income in the United States is like 50 grand, or I don't know if that's household or per person. I don't know. But median income is supposedly 50 something grand. I saw on the Caleb Hammer show. Okay. And so if we make $8,000 a month, that's probably, I don't know, like 160, no, 140 grand a year. I think it's 140 grand a year after tax. And so we have our checking and savings here, and then we have all these credit cards. So how many credit cards do we have? We have 8 credit cards, an auto loan, a mortgage, and then on top of that, we have our personal expenses not tied to debt, which is food, gas, insurance, and all that other stuff. So you see that even if we make good money, things are a little bit tight here because we got all this debt. And if you ask the average person, hey, take a look at this, what do you think I should do? What do you think they'll tell you? Do you think, oh, you don't have to make more money? They'll just tell you get an extra job, right? Deliver pizzas. That's kind of what Dave Ramsey does. Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying? Like most people, when you show them this, hey, I got $8,000 of income, but look at all this debt that I have. What do I do? They'll just tell you make more money, right? And so what we're going to show with something that we call the velocity method, that used to be called something else a long time ago before the state government of Illinois said you can't use that word. I'm not kidding. Okay. Said that, all right. So, okay, let me restart again. So the velocity method is just something that it's kind of like a philosophy of money, of basically you don't save it and you dump all of your money into a line of credit. Okay. That's basically what it is. And the way that you think about your checking account here is that your checking account is essentially the final destination of your money. That's how we're socialized in society when it comes to banking. In England, they drive on the left. In America, we drive on the right. Well, how do they socialize us with when it comes to banking? That you should put your money in your checking and savings account after paying all your bills, right? So the checking and savings is essentially the final destination of your money. However, when it comes to the quote velocity method, we don't save money, right? The checking account is seen as the temporary destination of your money. It's just a temporary stop, aka the bus stop. And where's your final destination? It's a line of credit. Okay. And so what we're going to assume is we have access to a $150,000 line of credit. Now, is it realistic that you would be able to get a line of credit with an $8,000 income and all this debt? No. But if you didn't have this debt, you can easily get a line of a line of credit, probably the size or even higher, depending on your assets and how much equity you have, right? And so why can we not get a free and clear line of credit? It's because banks don't lend money to people who need it. Now, you might be saying, if this is unrealistic, why are you demonstrating this? It's because if we demonstrate a realistic scenario, kind of like $5,000 of income and $5,000 of expenses and $4.10 left over in 22 debts with an 18 grand maxed out line of credit, I'm going to tell you something. You'll be here for 1 hour and 30 minutes, or we both will be, and you'll probably come out of this conversation with being a little bit confused because this is so complicated, right? I'm being honest with you. But if we just kind of do a simple example, we show you a free and clear line of credit, you'll have that clarity moment, and you'll that aha moment, like, whoa, I wish I had a line of credit. Okay, you'll get it. But yes, banks don't lend money to people who need it. Okay, they don't lend money to people who need it. And if you ever go to a bank and you need money, and there have been times where I've needed money and I thought, man, the bank is a place to go. I didn't find out that banks hate you when you need money, because people who need money don't pay you back. They don't pay you back. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is just move some debts into a line of credit and then use a measure called the cash flow index to determine which debts to move. So if you don't know what the cash flow index is, just basically a formula of the amount of debt that you have divided by the monthly payment, and then it just creates a ranking system or a sorting system. And so if you kind of see right here, you take the lowest ones first and you pay, in order, and you definitely don't want to pay the highest ones first, right? You want to pay the highest ones last. And why is that? Well, basically, with the 30-year mortgage, you literally have to give someone a lot of money for itty bitty amount of cash flow, right? You have to give them a lot of money, 235,000 for just a tiny bit of cash flow. Okay. And so what we're going to do is take these credit cards, move them into a line of credit, and then we're going to get a lot of cash flow. And you'll see what I mean by that. So how much credit card debt is this? Is 5, 8, 15, 27, 37, 10, 35. I'm going to go ahead and sum it up. So it's $137,000 of credit card debt that we can't move into a line of credit because you won't get a line of credit at this stage of your life where you need money. But if you did, think about what a lifesaver would be, right? $137,000 line of credit, same income, and take a look at this. These 8 credit cards payments go to 0. And so we're literally went from $31.93 to $4,482.76 without making more money. And this is gonna take, the average person who sees this for the first time to kind of takes them a while to get kind of understand it, right? It took me a while to understand. I'd say it took me about 6 to 9 months to kind of feel comfortable, but up to, present the topic and go from $31 to over 4,000. That's a game changer. Okay. And then here's the final step, right? You just don't transfer the debt. What you do is you put your entire paycheck into the line of credit, take your expenses out, and then after every single month, the balance should go down about $4,000 or so, right? And that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to show you here. So we're going to take the previous month's balance, previous month's interest, 4482.76. And then what we're going to do is take the average daily balance, multiply by the interest rate, and then divide by 12, right? And then you see that we have to pay some interest, and then we're going to go ahead and keep paying it off. And then we see that this gets paid off relatively easy. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and we see that in 35 months, the credit card debt was paid off. So just a little bit less than 3 years, that credit card debt that made us consider bankruptcy is gone. Right, so 137K, I'll go ahead and pay this off. And then now we have the auto loan and the mortgage, and then I'm just going to do this, 35. Okay. And then now what we have is just these 2 loans, and a lot of people really like to focus on the interest rate, right? Because they see this 4%. It's like, why aren't you attacking this 4%? Why would you attack the 3? Well, the reason why we would attack the 3 first is because we're going to follow the cash flow index model, where if we pay off only about a little bit under 10 grand, we get about $400 of cash flow. Whereas if we pay off this 222 grand, It'll be forever till we get this $1,100 of cash flow. So let's go ahead and pay this off. Let's pay this sucker off. All right. And I'm going to do this. And this will be plus 9568.69. And then we see that the car loan gets paid off in 2 months, right? So the real choke point was the high interest rate credit cards, but we can easily now tackle the auto loan. And so now our cash flow is almost $5,000. So it's not really going to make that big of a difference when we update the cash flow when it increases. And then this is going to be minus 4878.07. Yeah, see that? It really made no difference. 37 months. Okay, 37 months. Yeah, it got paid off. The auto loan got paid off. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to do this, and then this is going to be 137 plus 22. That's going to be 159K, and then that will be it. And then now we have 30-year mortgage, and you see how easy that was? So I did this less than 15 minutes. It's actually the 11-minute mark right now. Again, the clock. And again, I've done this so many times where it's just like, been there, done that. It's Tuesday for me, and today's actually Wednesday, but still feels like Tuesday. And I know for you, it was literally the most important day of your life. The most important day of your life, but for me, it was Tuesday. Anyways, all right. So we got the final debt, which is the 30-year mortgage, 235,000. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh my goodness, who in the world who has an $8,000 income would have a $235,000 mortgage, right? And real estate prices are just simply dependent on the area, right? Like this is why they always tell you buy a bad home in a good area than a good home in a bad area. Like you go to a Class D neighborhood and put like granite countertops and what's something associated with luxury? Like I don't know, granite countertops and water softeners and water, whole house water filtration system in the Class D shoot 'em up neighborhood. That property value ain't gonna go up. So whenever someone says, "Hey man, your property value is gonna go up because you upgraded the place," that's not gonna happen because real estate, especially single family residential real estate, is determined by comparable sales. So if you have a bad house in a quote good neighborhood, it could sell for millions of dollars, and that's what happens in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco all the time, and possibly New York, even though I've never been to New York, right? But I actually remember a guy who sent me an email like 3 years ago and wanted help with this debt, and he was making this amount of income, and he had like a home loan that was around this range because he lived in the Midwest. So still places where homes are cheap. You know what I mean? And you could still be broke with this amount of income because bad financial habits doesn't discriminate just because you live in a low cost of living area. You see what I'm saying? All right. So now we have the 30-year mortgage, $235,000 at 4%. And there's two ways that we can tackle this, right? So number one, we just do extra payments. Extra payments, $4,878.07 on top of the payment of $1,121.93. Now, most people, in my opinion, if they can do it, they should do it. But the problem is that this is the default option that nobody exercises, right? It's kind of like going to the gym in New Year's. People think that they're going to go to the gym in January just because they declare it, and then they never do it. It happens all the time. In fact, the gym expects you to not go because if you did go, I actually think it would hurt their profitability or something like that, right? They sell it so cheap because it's like I don't know, like a membership, like you logging on to or say buying a Netflix membership and never logging on ever. Like who doesn't love free money, right? Okay. So, first option is extra payments. And that's the option that nobody does. Now, the second option you have is if you want to still use a line of credit, is just transfer some of the loan into the line of credit, right? I call it sweeping. People call it chunking. Now, why would you want to do that? Is because it requires very little brain power. And I'm really serious about this, right? The reason why nobody will make extra payments is because, and this happens with credit cards too, is that if you overpay a loan or a credit card, it's very hard to get that money back. Now, given that this is your final loan, now it's a little bit different. But when you use a line of credit, okay, the personal or home equity line of credit is the only instrument out there where you could dump all of your money into it. Okay, all of it, all of your money into it, and easily get it out. You can't do that with the loan. You can't do that with the line. I'm sorry, with a credit card, right? And so, because of that, a lot of people have to really guesstimate how much they should send to that loan or to the loan as an extra payment. And because they have to do that, they end up not doing nothing. I don't know if you knew that or not, right? They just end up doing nothing. And so what we can do here is just move a piece of the loan to the line of credit, and all you have to think about is two things: is making sure your checking account goes to zero and your line of credit goes to zero. Now you might be saying, oh my goodness, but the line of credit is an 8% and this loan is a 4%, right? So remember how we paid this 3% auto loan off? Remember how we tackled that one first? And how much did it cost us? Like 20 bucks for that month for to use that line of credit. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I guess like I don't think $20 is that big of an expense to pay, for a $5,000. Actually, how much do we have? We had $9,000 to $20 to pay off in interest to pay off 9,500, right? So remember that the interest rate is not the only factor that determines how much interest you pay. In fact, there are a lot of people out there who think that if I have a 3%, let's say 30-year mortgage, I literally only pay 3% on the entire loan. Whereas if you know how 30-year mortgages work, if you have a 3% or a 4% 30-year mortgage and you go to the full term, so let's go to 360, that's the full term of a 30-year mortgage, you pay $168,000 of interest. That's not 3 or 4%, right? So the finance industry has gotten you by the balls. That's what George Carlin used to say. Well, he didn't say the finance industry, he just said they got you by the balls. But let me go back here. Actually, yeah, I'm right here. As you can see, I'm not too fascinated by this just because I've done this so many times, because for me it is Tuesday, literally. But another way that you can do this is just by moving a piece of a loan into a line of credit and then just doing it over and over again. Now, the most important thing when it comes to this is actually not whether you're doing extra payments or using a line of credit, it's the debt payoff order. That is the most important thing. So that's why I say, it doesn't matter at this stage. All you got is a 30-year mortgage, but if you want to use your line of credit to pay it off to prevent something called the segregation of income, which is how we got here in the first place. And you don't know what segregation of income is. Basically, your paycheck gets split all over the place, and then your leftover goes into checking and savings. How do we get from easily from here to here? Because we did not segregate our income and we put all of our money into one place, aka the line of credit. And if you want to keep that philosophy or way of operating, method of operation until the end, go ahead and do it. And I'll go ahead and do it right now. So let's say we put $8,000. So let me do this. So it's going to do plus $8,000 of the loan to line of credit. And that actually pays off in that month. And then you see that in every 2 months or so, we just keep moving 8,000 and it gets paid off relatively quickly, right? So that's what we're just going to do. Just going to keep moving the loan into the line of credit, stop segregating our income, put all our money into one place, and look how quickly it can evaporate, or the loan could evaporate. I don't know if that's actually how you describe a loan. It's not a water-like substance, but I'm just going to show you here quickly of what happens when you do that with the line of credit. And let me just actually do this. So this is our the amount that we move into the line of credit, and then we wait for the line of credit to go to zero, and then we do that over and over again. Now, yes, you do have to worry about the interest rate, but it's not as crazy as you think it is, right? Think of your line of the cost of money, okay, that you have to pay for a line of credit for two things. Number one, the risk you pose to the lending institution, and number two, the amount of access that you have to the money, right? So why will a mortgage, 30-year mortgage, always be cheaper than a line of credit? Because a loan is a one-way street, And that's why people have such difficulty paying loans, right? So the bank knows that the loan is the instrument, a financial instrument designed to make it hard to overpay, which is why they won't charge you that much interest, because if you make small payments over time, especially for a long time, they'll make a lot of money. Okay. Now, with the line of credit, it's much easier to access that money. And because that money is easier to access, they charge you higher interest rates, right? But it's not something you have to fear, because think about this. Let's say, take a look there, 16 grand, we go from 8 to 15% interest. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we literally went from 16.3 grand to 17.9 grand when the interest rate literally doubled. And you know how people freak out about interest rates when, like, the Fed says the interest rate goes down 1 or 2 points and that somehow stimulates the demand for the housing market? Folks, if you know how to buy real estate right at the right price, that interest rate don't matter, right? Because everybody's just thinking about the monthly payment, but no one's gonna pay the monthly payment for 30 years, right? But anyways, all right, so now 8%, 3.4 years. Let's go ahead and write this right here. So 3.4 years. I'm just going to do this. 0, 37 divided by 12 plus 3.4. 6.48 years debt-free. And it wasn't even mortgage-free. It was debt-free. I'm debt-free. Yeah. Anyways, I probably just realized that I'm just kind of like not taking this seriously, at least for this video right now. And that's because for me, I've done this so many times that I don't have to take it seriously. It's just Tuesday. Maybe you could watch one of my other videos where I'm just taking it a little bit more seriously. But when you do this, like, I think I've made at least 770 videos on this channel on the topic. So once I get to 10,000, man, I'm gonna be so good at this, because right now, okay, I can go through pretty much anybody's scenario in about 20 to 30 minutes on average. And if I go over really complicated scenarios like this, where you have 22 debts and $4.10 left over, this will take me an hour and 30. So hopefully I get to a point, and I'm not trying to like strive for this right now. It's not like me trying to be an Olympian gold medal. But I'm just saying, once I get to a point where I've done this so many times, maybe I could do a scenario like this in like 20 minutes. But I remember when I did this, this was a tough cookie to crack. And by the way, if you want to see this, join the 99-cent YouTube membership. I put this on a paywall on purpose. Actually, the reason why I put it on a paywall is because, like, I didn't want to embarrass myself. And just in case I couldn't do this scenario, I was like, I hope I don't get embarrassed. Like, because, what if this whole velocity method thing is a fraud? But it turns out it's not. Okay. All right. Well, that's it for today. Everybody's Korean Lantern Mentorship here with another video. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one. And if you want to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, just write in the comment box below. For me, it was Tuesday. For me, yes. For me, it was Tuesday. That's what you can write. All right. Have a great day, everybody.